A boy sits in front of his computer. The words "Your team wins" appear on the screen. He feels proud because he knows he can't lose. He shows off to his teammates, bragging that he did most of the works, and he earns 4 stars, ranking him in 10th place in the world. No Btoom player in Japan can compete with him and his team, so he decides he needs to play against opponents outside of Japan to improve his rank. Suddenly, he gets a notification about a new challenge, and one of his teammates tells him it says it's against the player ranked 2nd in the world. He accepts the challenge because his goal is to reach 1st place in the world. This game, Btoom, is a popular one and has sold 3 million copies globally, where players use only bombs as weapons. There are 8 different types of bombs, known as BIMs or BIMs, and players can also use sonar to detect their enemies without being seen. He reveals that he is 22 years old and unemployed. But in the world of Btoom, he is a player, stronger and more respected than everyone around him. He even finds love and gets married in this virtual realm. Later, he opens his eyes and finds himself in a forest. He realizes he's attached to a parachute and hanging from a tree branch. He breaks free from the parachute jacket and falls to the ground, disoriented and unable to remember how he arrived. The area has no mobile coverage, and horror grips him as he sees a green glass embedded in his left hand. As he stumbles on his bag, he picks it up along with a white hip pouch. He opens it to find his wallet, a change of clothes, and wonders if he was planning an overnight trip. He also discovers a convenience store bag containing a lunchbox and a bottle of tea, which he eagerly drinks. As he wanders around, he encounters swarms of insects which prompt him to start running away. He accidentally trips and rolls over, only to find himself on the beach. He remembers feeling angry at his mother for sending his resume to a grocery store. Then 2 men in black suits approach him, inquiring if he is Sakamoto. As he opens the white hip pouch, he removes one of the cubes and presses a button, triggering a countdown. He throws the cube away from himself before the countdown reaches 0, only to realize that the cubes are bombs. He's relieved to see someone approaching him from a distance and asks for help, but his hopes are quickly dashed when the man throws a bomb at him. Sakamoto realizes that he's now trapped in a real-life version of Btoom. He grabs his pouch and escapes into the forest. The man continues throwing bombs in his direction. Sakamoto throws his own bombs back at the man, but fails twice due to his lack of understanding at how the timer bombs work. He confronts the man, asking questions about the bombs, the green glass, and the reason behind the attack. The man laughs and he throws another bomb. Sakamoto escapes, attempting to surrender, but it's unsuccessful. As he hides in the bushes, he realizes the green glass acts as a radar, making hiding futile. He also understands that his bombs will only explode once the countdown reaches 0, unlike his enemy's cracker bombs, which explode upon impact. The man decides to throw 2 cracker bombs, targeting the bushes and the rock crevice, as he's unable to find Sakamoto's location. However, before the man can do it, Sakamoto yells out and runs towards the cliff edge, jumping off. The man follows, standing at the edge of the cliff, calling Sakamoto an idiot. As Sakamoto swims away, he starts a countdown, revealing he had planted one of his timer bombs at the edge of the cliff before jumping. As the countdown reaches 0, an explosion occurs, killing the man. Witnessing the man's corpse sinking into the ocean, Sakamoto is mortified, trying to justify his actions as self-defense. He then spots the man's bomb pouches, which have washed up, and decides he must take it. A female player sits by the stairs, watching as Sakamoto and his team bask in the praise of their victory. He notices her and approaches. He asks if she's waiting for someone. At first, she shakes her head, then admits she's waiting for a friend. He suggests they play a game while she waits, but she hesitates, saying she's not very good and will just slow him down. He reassures her that he'll back her up. His teammates tease him for hitting on her, but he tells them to be quiet. He then extends his hand to her. She takes it. The next day, Miho finds Himiko and apologizes for not logging into the game. She explains that her brother's friends came over. As they chat, Miho can't help but notice how Himiko's beauty draws the attention of all the guys around them. Himiko shrugs it off. While they browse for clothes, Himiko shares her recent experience playing with Sakamoto. They went to the cosplay photo booth floor. They strike playful poses, laughing as they capture the fun moments together. Himiko reveals that she used to be just a normal high school girl, nothing special about her except for being a foreigner. Everything changes when she finds herself on the island of Btoom. Opening her bag, she discovers bombs inside, and a wave of panic washes over her. Should she venture into the forest? The thought of encountering bugs and snakes fills her with dread. Instead, she decides to lay down under a tree. Himiko wakes up to find several men gathered around her. One of them steps forward, asking her to join them. They demonstrate their method of catching fish using bombs, and as they eat their catch, they discuss their current situation. One man insists they should all work together, but another, wearing a bandana, calls him a hypocrite. The first man argues that he's a teacher. Tension arises when the bandana man grabs his bomb and the teacher reaches for his own. Suddenly, the bandana man seizes Himiko, threatening her life to test the teacher's resolve. Himiko uses her stun gun to break free. Chaos erupts as a hefty man throws his bomb bag and the others quickly follow suit. Ready to defend themselves, the fat man nominates Himiko as their leader. They spot a plane dropping something from the sky. They discover it's a suitcase full of supplies. As they share the food, the teacher suggests they divide it fairly. As the bandana man stabs the teacher and slits his throat, Himiko is shocked. She remembers how Miho is thrilled to hang out with Yoshioka, and Himiko mentions that he and the band members invited her and her friends. Also, Himiko and Yoshioka live in the same apartment. Himiko leaves her friends to get things from her apartment, and Miho is excited to see Yoshioka. At night, Mitsuo wakes Himiko up and asks her to run away with him. Mitsuo senses the bandana man via his radar. Mitsuo urges Himiko to run with him. They arrive at a rope bridge and Mitsuo refuses to walk on the bridge. When the man asks Mitsuo how he knew he was following them, Mitsuo tells him it's a radar, but doesn't give him the complete information. Then the man rushes to stab Mitsuo, and Mitsuo throws a bomb that unleashes smoke, defoliating the plants. The man dodges the bomb by ducking into the forest. Mitsuo tells Himiko to fight back, and when Himiko refuses to kill another person, she punches Mitsuo after remembering Yoshioka. Mitsuo grabs and squeezes Himiko. Mitsuo asks her why she hates him and vows to protect her. Himiko stuns the man with her taser. She remembers how at Yoshioka's place, she arrives to see her friends lying on the floor with their clothes undone. She is stunned that Yoshioka's band raped them. Yoshioka tries to kiss Himiko, but Himiko punches him. She runs down the hallway only to see Miho crying. Miho struggles to break free from her rapist, and after she kicks Yoshioka to get free, she runs to call for help while Miho's body gets dragged. Himiko states that Yoshioka and his band were arrested and that all her friends moved away. Miho yells at Himiko and wishes she would disappear. As she recalls her painful past, Himiko feels drops of water on her skin. She realizes it's Mitsuo's drool. Before she can run away, Mitsuo knocks down Himiko. As he straddles her on the ground, he tears off her shirt and pushes her bra upward. He proceeds to violate her by smothering his fat face upon her chest. Mitsuo unzips his zipper. Himiko activates her bomb and Mitsuo runs away. Himiko throws the bomb, which hits Mitsuo. By the river, Himiko washes herself and declares that all men are her enemies. As she sits by the waterfall, Sakamoto spots her, and they both stare at each other before she starts taking steps backwards. She dashes into the forest. Determined to find her, he activates his radar. He spots movement in the bushes. He jumps in, startled to find a man taking a dump. The man begs Sakamoto to let him go, claiming he was dragged into this game against his will. Sakamoto demands to know why they're all fighting each other in a death game. The man explains that he and others were taken by soldiers to an island near the Pacific. On a screen, a man outlines the rules of the game and explains the bombs. The crowd protests and soldiers respond by tasing one man into silence. The announcer reveals that each player receives one type of BIM, 8 bombs, and a chip embedded in their hands which will only come out if they die. He adds that they need to collect 8 chips, including their own, to escape the island. Sakamoto recalls fragmented memories from before he was tased. He remembers a voice ordering soldiers to push people off the plane, including his unconscious self. He realizes that the company behind the Btoom game is involved in this twisted game. The man asks Sakamoto to team up with him, and Sakamoto inquires how he feels about the game. The man admits he doesn't enjoy killing people and suggests they find another way to survive. Sakamoto agrees to the partnership and asks to see his BIMs. The man refuses, explaining that it's a matter of respect to keep their trump cards hidden. Sakamoto suddenly hears the sound of planes and spots briefcases dropping from the sky. He informs Taira that he's going to retrieve the supplies. Just as Sakamoto makes his way toward one, he sees a woman reaching for a briefcase. Suddenly, a mine explodes beneath her, and a man snatches the supplies, her chips, and her BIM. Sakamoto points to a parachute landing in the forest, warning Taira that it could be a trap. Taira encourages him, reminding him that they need food to survive. 3 men were raped and murdered. 2 policemen talk about the murderer, a boy named Kira, and mention that Soichi Natsume is going to be Kira's lawyer. On the island, Natsume finds Kira killing frogs. Kira asks why it's wrong to kill frogs when nobody cares, and Natsume says it's still not right. They see supplies falling from the sky nearby. Natsumi advises Kira to stand up to his abusive father. Later, Kira's father finds a briefcase in a tree and asks Kira to give him a bomb. The father kicks Kira in the groin and takes the bomb. He tries to blow up the tree, but Natsumi says only Kira can do it. When Kira sets off the bomb, the father opens the case and takes it. Natsumi asks him to share the supplies, but Kira's father says the strongest one gets to keep everything. When Kira calls him a bad person, he grabs Kira's groin and squeezes. Kira slaps a bomb on his father's chest and activates it. His father tries to take off his shirt, but half of his body gets sucked in. Kira is happy and tells Natsumi that he finally stood up to his father. Natsumi calls Kira a monster and runs away. Kira is confused that Natsumi broke his promise to protect him. Kira senses a radar signal and he sees Sakamoto and Taira arriving at the scene. Sakamoto asks Kira if he killed the man, and Kira says that this is about the strongest person surviving. While Kira takes his father's food and BIM, Sakamoto and Taira try to escape. After Kira activates his radar, Taira trips and hurts his ankle. Taira tells Sakamoto to leave him, but Sakamoto goes out to confront Kira. Sakamoto uses his radar and Kira uses his radar too. While Sakamoto thinks about what to do, he senses Kira is close. He charges at Kira, who quickly tosses a bomb in his direction. Sakamoto evades it just in time, and Kira chases after him. Noticing Sakamoto is running away, Kira jumps off a rock, triggering a timer. Kira survives the blast and throws his BIM at Sakamoto. Caught in the explosion, Sakamoto quickly throws his bag away. The bomb detonates and Kira yells out, challenging Sakamoto to fight him for real. Kira starts insulting Sakamoto. When Sakamoto yells back, Kira tosses a cracker BIM at him. Sakamoto gets blasted and hits his head against a rock. He retaliates by throwing a cracker BIM at Kira, but Kira jumps down to avoid the blast. Kira finds Sakamoto again and throws another BIM his way. Sakamoto tosses an empty pouch to distract Kira and makes a run for it. Kira uses his sonar to track Sakamoto, but gets no response. He assumes Sakamoto is standing still, but Sakamoto comes from behind and throws a timer at Kira. Kira tries using the sonar multiple times, still receiving no feedback. He realizes that Sakamoto is canceling the sonar with his own. Just then, Sakamoto throws a cracker BIM at Kira. Sakamoto feels a sharp headache and sees Kira on the ground, barely alive. Sakamoto and Taira sit by the river, eating ramen. Taira thanks him for fighting and bringing back food. Tears stream down his face as he calls Sakamoto a hero. Sakamoto smiles warmly. In Sakamoto's house, a man finds Yuki in the bathtub with her hands slit and bleeding. She looks up at her husband, Hisanobu, with a mix of shame and despair. She knows he's been laid off and suffering in silence. She apologizes to him and Sakamoto. Meanwhile, Sakamoto and Taira spot a dead body floating in the river. Sakamoto feels a chill and urges Taira to move quickly, sensing danger at the waterfall. Taira, wincing in pain, says he can't move fast because of his injured leg. He finds another dead body by a tree. He notices the chip is gone and uses his radar, which quickly highlights a figure on the cliff. Himiko. Without a warning, Himiko throws a BIM that detonates, releasing a toxic gas. Sakamoto tries to reason with her, attempting to disarm her bomb. As Sakamoto approaches her, Himiko activates the bomb and declares that all men are her enemies. She throws the bomb, but it misses Sakamoto and he charges at her. He dodges her taser and the two pause to catch their breath. Sakamoto falls to the ground and Himiko takes advantage of the opportunity, tasering him. He kicks her and the briefcase is electrocuted, shocking Himiko. She remains unconscious. He takes her weapons, feeling a sense of unease as he is undressing her. Sakamoto lifts up Himiko's skirt, catching a glimpse of her pink underwear. He quickly covers her again, his face flushing with embarrassment. Himiko regains consciousness to find Sakamoto carrying her, still haunted by the nightmare where Mitsuo rapes and kills her. She activates a timer bomb, but Sakamoto deactivates it just in time. Himiko breaks down in tears. Later, Taira offers her coffee. He reassures her that they won't hurt her, promising they will make it back alive. However, Himiko replies that there will be nothing waiting for them back home. She shares that people they know have nominated them to die on this island. Taira insists he has a good relationship with his family, but he suspects one of his customers might be behind his nomination. Himiko recalls Miho, who nominated her out of anger, while Sakamoto contemplates the painful thought that his own mother might have nominated him as well. Taira urges them not to give up. Suddenly, movement stirs in the bushes. Sakamoto checks his radar, but finds nothing. Taira grabs a flashlight, illuminating the area just as they spot giant lizards approaching them. Sakamoto tells Taira to take care of Himiko while he crosses the river to retrieve the BIM. As he makes his way, Taira and Himiko suddenly find themselves surrounded by Komodo dragons. Sakamoto throws a BIM, but it doesn't explode. He realizes that the owner must be killed for the BIM to work. When Taira gets his leg bitten off by one of the creatures, Sakamoto tosses another BIM which detonates and drives the lizards away. As they walk down the river, they hear the lizards approaching again. Taira urges Sakamoto to run fast, but when Sakamoto finds himself alone, he yells out for Taira, activating his sonar chip but finding nothing. Anger swells within him as he fears Taira has abandoned him and Himiko to die. Just as the lizards close in, a small flying BIM detonates, taking out the creature, and Taira comes back. Sakamoto feels relief wash over him. He apologizes to Taira. Moments later, they spot a building. Arriving there, Sakamoto and Taira attempt to climb the ladder but end up crashing down. Taira decides to distract the Komodo dragons by using his BIM. Meanwhile, Sakamoto tries to wake Himiko. Overwhelmed, he laughs maniacally between tears. Taira glances over to see Sakamoto climbing the ladder without Himiko and wonders if Sakamoto is sacrificing them. In a desperate move, Sakamoto tosses a BIM that ignites, burning down the lizards. He explains that he made Himiko press the bomb earlier and that the wind has dispersed the toxic gas. The next day, Himiko awakens with a start, her gaze falling on a bloody corner of the room. Outside, Sakamoto finds Taira suffering from his leg injury, perched on the ledge. Throughout the day, he goes to fetch water for Taira, and as Himiko climbs down the ladder, wind exposes Himiko's skin and Sakamoto looks away. Himiko asks Sakamoto if he did anything strange to her while she was unconscious. She notices his expression and calls him a pervert. When Sakamoto touches her shoulder, she panics, recalling the traumatic encounter with Mitsuo. Later that night, Sakamoto tries to help Taira and asks Himiko for help. Later, Himiko looks at a cosplay photo of herself and Miho. Sakamoto approaches her and asks for her name, realizing she enjoys cosplay. Himiko reacts angrily, kicking him for looking at her phone. She asserts that she isn't working with anyone and doesn't trust men at all. Sakamoto presses her about how she obtained her BIM and food, reminding her that she can only use what she takes from those she kills. Just then, Taira wakes up and questions whether Himiko is a murderer. She insists she's only protecting herself, tears brimming in her eyes. Sakamoto explains that he can't relax his guard around her. Before Himiko can respond, a sonar alert sounds. She panics, saying she's been found and that she needs to leave the post. Sakamoto declares that he will distract the enemy. Sakamoto dodges the man's knife. He jumps down the cliff and Miyamoto follows him. Sakamoto tries to convince him to stop and reconsider joining him. However, Miyamoto declines and Natsume launches an attack on Sakamoto with a timer BIM. Natsume kicks Sakamoto for having 3 BIMs, and Sakamoto tasers Natsume and escapes. Miyamoto explains to Natsume that he let Sakamoto go because Sakamoto has friends. Meanwhile, Himiko asks Sakamoto if he was followed, and she decides to leave the place. Then, Miyamoto arrives at the base and reveals that he's a former mercenary who can easily track people in the jungle. He asks Himiko about taking Mitsuo's chip, and Himiko states she did not take it. Miyamoto threatens to strip her. Miyamoto is unfazed by Sakamoto's taser and tells him that the only way out is to kill people in order to collect 8 chips. Sakamoto insists that there must be a way to escape. Before Miyamoto can attack Sakamoto, Taira tries to fight back but gets his fingers sliced off by Miyamoto. Sakamoto attempts to tase Miyamoto, but Miyamoto kicks Sakamoto off the building. Sakamoto climbs back up to see Taira crying and Himiko gone. He feels responsible for the situation. He spots Himiko's cell phone and looks at the cosplay photo. He reads the name Himiko and realizes she is the online player he married. As Sakamoto prepares to leave, Taira breaks down in tears, begging Sakamoto not to abandon him. Meanwhile, Himiko struggles to free herself from the bed. When Miyamoto approaches her, Himiko asks him to kill her without violating her. Miyamoto responds that he will torment her and begins to slice her wrist. Suddenly, a radar fires twice, and Himiko fires back twice. Miyamoto instructs Natsume to set the timers to 3 seconds. Natsume exits to confront Sakamoto while Miyamoto lies in wait. Miyamoto senses someone approaching and strikes, but stops just short of hitting Natsume. Sakamoto sneaks around, avoiding the trap. He disarms the bomb and arrives at the room where Himiko is being held captive. Himiko bursts into tears when she sees Sakamoto, and he addresses her as Himiko. Himiko wonders how he knew her name, and Sakamoto explains that he is Sakamoto and that he married a virtual girl named Himiko in an online game. Himiko reveals that her real name is not Himiko and that she doesn't play video games often. As they exit the room, Miyamoto's radar detects their presence. Miyamoto instructs Natsume to head out front while he takes the other side. Natsume storms off, blowing things up and chasing Sakamoto down the hall. Sakamoto throws a BIM that kills Natsume. Miyamoto captures Himiko and discards the knife. He taunts Sakamoto, telling him to fight like a man. Sakamoto tries to get the knife, but Miyamoto kicks and beats him. Miyamoto pins Sakamoto down. Himiko rushes forward and grabs Miyamoto, forcing him to release his grip on Sakamoto. Miyamoto realizes that Himiko has pulled one of the bombs on him and gets sprayed by searing gas. Sakamoto and Himiko run towards a dead end, and Sakamoto finds an exit above. He jumps up and Himiko jumps to grab his hands. Suddenly, Miyamoto grabs Himiko's legs. Sakamoto drops a timer and Miyamoto goes down to deactivate the bomb. Miyamoto realizes this is Natsume's timer, which blows up in 3 seconds. After the explosion, Sakamoto and Himiko find themselves hugging each other, and they pull away and blush. Later, Sakamoto uses his radar to ensure the area is safe. He opens the briefcase and hands food and a shirt to Himiko. After Sakamoto steps away to change, Himiko quickly dresses and Sakamoto tells her that he will sleep in another room. However, she asks him not to leave her, confessing that she's scared. Sakamoto reassures her that he's fine with sleeping with her, but Himiko calls him a pervert for implying something else. Before they sleep, she creates a barrier to separate them. Himiko comments that Sakamoto is reckless for coming here without a BIM to rescue someone he doesn't know. Sakamoto admits that he prioritizes his online friends above his life. She silently cries to herself, feeling grateful to have met Sakamoto. Yet, she's fearing that she might open her heart to more men in her life. Himiko wakes up to see a ghost figure. Sakamoto wakes up startled and thinks she was having a nightmare. Himiko assures him it's real because the person has another flashlight. Sakamoto leads Himiko down the dark halls and tells her to wait there. He sees a window with a light in it. Upon arriving there, the woman tries to slice him from behind with a sickle. Sakamoto kicks and knocks the woman to the floor. He goes back and tells Himiko. In the woman's room, the woman kicks Sakamoto and yells that men should get out. Himiko urges Sakamoto to get out. The woman, Shiki Murasaki, tells Himiko not to trust any men. Shiki explains her past. She reveals that she was a nurse who worked at a hospital and did all she could to protect the doctor she respected. In the end, the doctor she saved betrayed her. Then one day she received a letter that asked if there was anyone she would like to get rid of. On the island, she meets the doctor and he urges her to work with him to put behind their past. After the two obtain the 6th chip, he punches Shiki and blows her up with his homing BIM. Shiki blocks it with her BIM bag and the doctor takes her chip. Then a helicopter comes and takes him. She tells Himiko to be careful of the man once they get all the chips. Himiko explains to Sakamoto about a helicopter coming for the person who has the number of the chips needed. Sakamoto wonders if they can hijack the helicopter using their BIMs as a threat. Taira is grateful to Date, who is fixing his wounds. Thinking to himself, Date plans to use Taira. Then Sakamoto and Himiko arrive at the location and Sakamoto demands that Date get away from Taira. Date explains that he is a doctor and that he has no intention of participating in the killing. Taira tells Sakamoto that Date is a good man. Sakamoto apologizes, but he asks Date to show his BIM. Sakamoto and Himiko see that one of the BIMs is a remote control and is designed in a way for traps. He believes Date, who hasn't used his BIM, and Sakamoto explains his plans. Then Sakamoto states that they have 3 chips. Date grins about his good fortune. Outside, Sakamoto senses a radar, and he uses his radar to sense 6 combatants nearby. Then 2 retreat, and 2 are close by. Running beside Sakamoto, he finds a man with sunglasses going towards the briefcase. The 2 jump off the edge, only to tumble down the slope. Sakamoto finds the man staring him down, and both of them throw crackers at each other. Meanwhile, Himiko finds herself near Kinoshita, who yells out Oda's name. Kinoshita attacks Himiko with a stick and knocks her out with a kick. She drops a timer BIM on Himiko. After the detonation, Sakamoto sees Oda throwing a BIM that unleashes a searing gas towards Date. Date makes a run and detonates the briefcase. The briefcase drops down and Sakamoto manages to catch it. Oda chases Sakamoto along the cliff. In the forest, Kinoshita decides to leave the scene since she does not want to grab the chip. Out of the smoke, Himiko stuns Kinoshita by applying her taser to Kinoshita's stick. She notices Kinoshita has a timer BIM and shows Kinoshita her weapons, cracker BIM and a taser. On the cliffside, Sakamoto finds himself trapped in a vortex of flames and Kira tells the old man to finish him off. Oda jumps into the flames and kicks Sakamoto. After stealing Sakamoto's briefcase, Oda jumps into the ocean. Sakamoto jumps into the sea once he gets hit by the old man's bomb. The old man goes off to get the briefcase. In the forest, Kinoshita heckles Himiko, and when Himiko tries to attack Kinoshita with a taser, Kinoshita dodges and binds Himiko from behind. She brings down Himiko and starts to strangle her. Himiko flips Kinoshita, who bumps her head into a tree. Kinoshita tries to bash Himiko with a stick, and Himiko stuns Kinoshita. She grabs Kinoshita's head and bangs it against the ground. Then a bomb drops by and both girls flee. Date asks Himiko if she's okay and Himiko starts to get suspicious of Date. At the beach, Sakamoto emerges and looks behind the bounders. He spots the old man who's looking around. The old man spots a briefcase and grabs it, though he gets blasted by a BIM due to Oda's trap. Oda grabs the chip and the old man's BIM. Sakamoto threatens the man to drop the BIM and the briefcase. Oda complies and drops 4 chips, his BIM bags, and the briefcase. Oda states that he has given up and asks if Sakamoto is scared. Sakamoto orders Oda to move away from the BIMs and chips. He's still suspicious about Oda and thinks Oda has set up a remote-controlled BIM. Sakamoto asks Oda to reveal his palms, only to find nothing there. He slowly walks up to the stuff, and Oda activates the BIM using his teeth. Oda thinks he got Sakamoto, but he finds Sakamoto still alive. Himiko hears an explosion, and Date tells her to be careful because one small mistake can cost her life. On the beach, Oda calls out Sakamoto's name, and Sakamoto tries to ask the man how he knew him. Kida laughs out loud and reveals to Sakamoto that he has picked up a BIM bag. Sakamoto falls back on the sand, all exhausted, and both Himiko and Date arrive to find Sakamoto. Himiko hugs him tightly, and Sakamoto blushes a bit. He apologizes to Himiko. Later, Sakamoto remembers that Oda was very popular and talented. Young Sakamoto feels that he cannot beat Oda, yet he finds out that Oda has some common ground with him. Sakamoto thinks he's the only one whom Oda can be open with. Later, Oda asks Sakamoto if he asked Aiko out, and Oda comments that Aiko is plain but cute. Sakamoto states that he's fine with things now, and Oda remarks that Sakamoto is holding himself back. The following day, Aiko is sobbing, and a girl asks Oda why he did that stuff. On the rooftop, Sakamoto asks Oda what has happened, and Oda replies that he slept with Aiko. Oda states that Aiko confessed to him, and before he could finish his words, Sakamoto punches Oda and feels that Oda has humiliated him. Sakamoto now wonders if Oda will be his enemy. Sakamoto finishes the curry gruel, and Himiko comments that it smells good. Date is frustrated that he has to share his food with Sakamoto's group. When Sakamoto thanks Date, Date states that they can get more tomorrow. Sakamoto asks Date how he knew, and Himiko gets suspicious again. When Sakamoto tries to feed Taida, Date feels Taida's hands and states that the Komodo dragon's venom is preventing Taida's wounds from healing. Sakamoto informs Date that they know a place where they can find medicine. On the way there, Himiko tells Sakamoto what has happened to her and that Date tried to kill her. Sakamoto tells her that they should try to trust people. Arriving at Shiki's place, Himiko tells Sakamoto that she will ask her friend privately. And Sakamoto tells Date that Himiko has forgotten where the medicine is. Date gets suspicious a bit. When Himiko runs off by herself, Sakamoto and Date search for the medicine. Date finds the medicine no longer viable and just picks random bottles to put in the briefcase. When Sakamoto finds Date, Date gives him the briefcase, and Sakamoto feels Date is intimidating him. Sakamoto signals Himiko with his radar, and he sees Himiko running towards him. Himiko yells out to Sakamoto to get rid of the briefcase. Himiko urges Sakamoto to do so because there is a BIM in the case. Date presses the button and detonates it. Himiko is stunned at Sakamoto's death, and Date walks slowly towards Himiko. Shiki strikes Date from behind with her sickle. Himiko remembers explaining her situation to Shiki, and Shiki states that she has painkillers and antibiotics, but no serum. When Shiki points to the medicine room, she sees Date and her old wounds begin to hurt. Shiki informs Himiko that Date is the one who betrayed her. She asks Himiko what BIMs Date has. Then, when the two sees Sakamoto grabbing the briefcase, Shiki states that Date has placed a BIM in it. Shiki tries to snap Himiko out of it, and she grabs Himiko. As the two walk through the halls, Himiko trips, and Date detonates the hallway before them. Shiki throws a cracker BIM at Date by having Himiko press the button. As Shiki walks towards Date on the roof, Shiki comments that fate has brought them together. When Date runs away, he presses the button that detonates the wall near Shiki. Shiki falls on the ground, and Date smiles since he only has Himiko to deal with. With thoughts of Sakamoto being here for her, Himiko regrets not telling Sakamoto that she is the same Himiko. Date asks Himiko to ally with him, but she declines. When Date throws the cracker BIM, it bounces off Himiko's large boobs. Date wonders why the BIM did not detonate upon impact, and he uses his radar. He's surprised that Sakamoto is still alive, which makes the cracker BIMs he's holding useless. Sakamoto survived by throwing the briefcase and diving into a cellar below the room. Himiko is happy that Sakamoto is still alive. Sakamoto states that Date only has remote control BIMs while he has one BIM, and that Himiko is well armed. Date makes a run for it, and he smiles when Sakamoto is following him. Date looks around and hides behind a corner. He looks at the trap he's set up, and when he presses the button, Sakamoto states that he has moved Date's trap. The wall explodes near Date. As Himiko arrives at the scene, she asks Sakamoto what he will do. Sakamoto brings up how they are unable to trust Date, who is bent on killing them. Then Shiki arrives and she tells them that they should not dirty their hands as she pulls out her sickle. Date asks Shiki to help him, and Shiki tells Date that he is dishonest for using others. With the sickle near Date's neck, Date apologizes to Shiki, and Shiki begins to cry. She tells Date not to look at her that way. When the sickle is swung, Himiko sees the sickle hitting the ground. Date asks her if she's forgiven him. Shiki cries that she will never forgive him. Later, Himiko is taking a shower, and she tells Sakamoto not to peep since she has Sakamoto to be a bodyguard. Sakamoto asks Himiko why Shiki saved Date despite the terrible things Date did to Shiki. Himiko replies that she understands a little bit, and Sakamoto comments that Himiko would understand since she's a woman. Sakamoto tells Himiko that he has an idea to check for the IC chips on the players who have died. Himiko walks outside of the shower stall when her towel falls off. She's happy at the idea that they no longer have to kill anyone. Sakamoto is shocked to see Himiko's nude body, and Himiko slaps Sakamoto for looking at her naked out of embarrassment. Taira dreams that he's marching through the fog, looking for Sakamoto. Then he wakes up to hear a young boy calling Daddy. Taira walks outside and sees his son, Yuzuhiko. He falls off the ladder, and Yuzuhiko asks him why he could not come home earlier. Taira tries to reassure him, and his wife, Akiko, appears. Akiko asks Taira how many chips he has, and Taira thinks about the 3 chips that Sakamoto has in addition to Sakamoto and Himiko's chips. As Sakamoto and Himiko are walking through the fog, Sakamoto tells her to walk quickly before the Komodo dragons wake up. As Sakamoto climbs the ladder, Taira locks on Sakamoto with his homing BIM. As Sakamoto lures the BIM away, he hits it with a metal pole. A second one flies by and Sakamoto hits it, though it still detonates on the ground, injuring Sakamoto's leg. Himiko cries out and begs Taira to stop. She thinks Taira is betraying them. Sakamoto uses his radar to find Taira, and he recalls Taira, who fears being alone. He wonders if he did the same things like his father. In his past, his father was too busy, while his mother divorced him and remarried another man. Sakamoto urges Himiko to run away. As Himiko prepares to confront the homing BIM, she grabs it and disarms it. She realizes that she can disarm the BIM because it only detonates within range of its target. Sakamoto realizes she is the same person he married in Btoom. Sakamoto feels something is wrong and realizes that Taira is targeting Himiko. He disarms the BIM. Sakamoto uses his radar to find Taira, who is making a run for it. Taira fears that Sakamoto will kill him, and Sakamoto begs Taira to come back. Taira stumbles and falls down the hill. He opens his BIM belt only to find 1 BIM left. Sakamoto yells out that he wants to go home with Taira and begs for a chance to apologize to Taira for leaving him. Taira finds himself surrounded by Komodo dragons and thinks that this is karma. He apologizes to Himiko and Sakamoto. Taira locks on himself, and both Sakamoto and Himiko hear the explosion. Sakamoto yells out to Taira in agony. That night, Sakamoto states that Taira was a normal person who got scared because they abandoned him. Himiko asks Sakamoto if he wants to go home, and Sakamoto agrees, and Himiko reveals the chips, including her chip. She tells him to kill her, since she believes she has nowhere to go. Sakamoto refuses to do that, and he tells her that he will never abandon her. Ever. Sakamoto holds out his hand after pointing out that Himiko is his Himiko from Btoom. The two hold hands and kiss. Himiko lies flat on the sofa with her eyes closed. Sakamoto notices that Himiko is scared due to her horrible incidents with other men. Sakamoto apologizes to Himiko and explains that they can be a couple back at home. Overjoyed at Sakamoto's words, Himiko embraces him. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and if you want to see more of our anime recaps, which we love bringing to your life, please consider subscribing and pressing that notification bell, which will let you know exactly when new stuff comes out. Thanks so much again. Have a great day. Bye.